Welcome to UFO Headline News with me, Heidi Hollis. Today is Friday, December 29th, 2017, and blasting off right from the start with UFO reports. We have a UFO sighting in Gardena, California, or Gardena, I don't know. This happened December 22nd, 2017. In brief, the witness states, I took a pic of the SpaceX launch and saw in pic. In more detail, they say, I was outside and saw the smoke trail from the SpaceX launch and snapped a pic. Didn't think anything of it, and next day looked at the pic again and noticed two diamond shapes, green in color in the pic. Have sent to other places but have had no responses. Fascinating. The next UFO sighting occurred in Bethal, or Bethal. Bethel or Bethal. This occurred December 28th, 2017. 6 to UFO flying in clouds with a bright light. In more detail, the witness states was going out to have a smoke when I noticed a few bright lights flying in the clouds with high speed and changing direction with a blink of an eye, or in a blink of an eye, that's what it should say. I did not call my wife up until I saw two passing each other and stopping and hovering for a split second. Then they twirled over each other. That's when I called my wife to come and see what I did see. We noticed a couple of them flying fast in a zigzag motion. Then, just as fast as it started, it ended. I never believed in UFOs, but after this, I may be looking into it. Maybe. Okay. The next UFO sighting occurred in Ankara. Not sure where that is. This occurred November 28th, 2017. In brief, they say it was a black object with 3 vertical red lines. In more detail, they state, I was eating dinner with my girlfriend at home. The red lights caught my eye. They were brighter than any usual planes had. I just thought that it was a UFO. It was a dark oval object with 3 distinct vertical red lines on it. The lights went on and off from bottom to top. I was excited and scared at the same time because the object was followed by a helicopter which kept its distance away from it. I lost sight of the object when it got behind the buildings. Sounds like a blimp. The next, I'm just stating, I don't know. The next UFO sighting. Oh, it's not a UFO sighting. Alien encounter in Kenilworth, New Jersey. This is a blast from the past. This happened December 31st, 2005. They state no encounter with a craft, a possible encounter with an entity in my room. The witness states, in more detail, in the month of January in 2006, I had an incident of sleep paralysis. I've had such incidences before, but this was different. At the other end of my bedroom, approximately 20 feet from me, I saw a shadowy, hooded figure just standing still. It had no discernible features. I do not recall any attempt of communication on the part of the entity. It was a terrifying experience. I was unable to move despite trying as hard as I could, and I could feel the presence of this thing, whatever it was, in my room. I finally managed to wake up and regain full mobility. The figure was gone, leaving behind no evidence it was ever there. There was no one home at the house. Several years prior, I began working as a firefighter and emergency medical technician, certified in January of 2005. Sometime between 2006 and 2007, I noticed that I had become very intuitive when treating patients. I could often figure out what was wrong with them very quickly and correctly. This is not uncommon for EMTs who have years of experience, but I was still relatively new and inexperienced. I have more or less had this intuition since then. I didn't place the two things together until recently, having watched interviews and lectures by, quote, experiencers, some of whom had experiences similar in nature to mine, and developed strange sixth sense like abilities. I am a skeptic. I have never seen a UFO. I have never had an incident where I have seen an entity outside of the possibility of the above scenario. That said, I cannot rule out there was not some related phenomena that I witnessed here, and I cannot simply dismiss the experience at hand. The next incident is actually a UFO sighting. UFO sighting in Naperville, Illinois. This occurred November 22nd, 2017. In brief, the witness calls it a large, bright object flying at low altitude. In more detail, they state it was about 7:34, 7:38 in the evening when I was coming back home from the grocery store with my father. As we turned the corner of Red Start and Warbler to get home, I noticed something out of the ordinary. A large, pulsating, bright white light. There is quite a bit of air traffic in our area, but this light was larger than any plane light I have ever seen. Having no outline like a plane would at such a low altitude, about 20 degrees above the horizon, just at the tree line, this light caught my attention. When I first saw it, I observed a small, blinking red light at the bottom front of the light. About a third of the way through the observed flight path of the larger light, the red light disappeared. Traveling east, the light suddenly started pulsating differently from before. It started to alternate between the same bright white I had originally seen and a teal-like color. Its flashing reminded me almost of a strobe light. Turning away from the northeast, the large light swung around to the southeast. I watched it pulsate, fly over my house off in the distance, before losing sight of it behind the large trees in my area. The whole sighting lasted about 20 to 30 seconds. As soon as I got in the house, I fetched my laptop and jotted down a quick description of what I had just seen. I hadn't even taken off my coat or shoes yet. I wanted to write it down while it was still incredibly fresh in my mind. While my father was with me, he didn't see anything. He had recently had cataract surgery, so his vision was very limited, especially since it was nighttime when the sighting occurred. He didn't believe me at first, but he does now since we got a short fragment of the light on the car's dash cam. Ooh. Being low resolution, I probably won't include the clip. However, a friend and I were able to get a freeze frame of the light, along with a close-up, higher resolution picture. In the first picture, the light observed is in the upper right-hand side of the picture, while the larger light closer to the left is a street light with a car beneath it. The next UFO sighting happened in Naperville, Illinois once again. This occurred December 10th, 2017. In brief, they state red blinking light that was present before stars came out with no aircraft in area. Strange green object caught while filming red light. In more detail, the witness states, first observed from the intersection of Main Street and Aurora Avenue. Small red light that appeared stationary above a Walgreens located at the intersection. It was about 5:50 p.m. on a clear evening. No stars were out yet, and no planes or other aircraft were observed for the evening. That's what caught my attention. The light was clearly artificial, but there hadn't been any typical air traffic. The light was out of place. I was across the street from the Walgreens waiting for the light to change so I could get to my car in the Water Street parking garage. Observing. It wasn't moving, yet the light was blinking. It would flash red, then appear to vanish, only to blink red again. I was curious and did something that I'll admit was not really thought through. I flashed the flashlight on my phone at it, mimicking its own flashing. It flashed back and then stopped flashing. When the light finally turned, after I took a quick series of photos, I crossed the street and headed down the block towards the garage. However, I noticed something odd. The red light wasn't behind me as it should have been, if it was stationary. If it had just been hovering, I should have passed it by, leaving it behind me. I should have had to look behind me in order to keep it in view, not in front. Curious, I stopped walking abruptly. In that short instant of my pause, I caught it moving a few degrees more to the west before it stopped. I took more photos and kept walking. In front of the garage across from the municipal center, there is a relatively empty small parking lot. I stopped there and flashed my flashlight once more in a series of rapid bursts at the light. There was no response this time. Once more, the light was stationary. I took the stairs up to the fourth floor, where my car was, and looked out the gaps between the floors. The light was still there, stationary, blinking slowly. I took another series of quick photos. Leaving the downtown area to get home, I hoped out loud that I wouldn't see it coming after the car. I don't recall seeing it after I left. I don't know if it was still there when I pulled out of the garage, but I know for sure that it didn't follow me back to my house. Later, discovering a video I took with my cell phone that I hadn't noticed before, I saw another object come out of nowhere during the last 2 seconds of the video. Green and flying out of nowhere, I could tell it was much larger than the red light, didn't blink, and wasn't noticed while I filmed. I hope that the video I included works. If not, contact me and I'll try again. Also include some of the photos I took as well as a screenshot of the green object. Ooh. The next UFO encounter or sighting happened in Hamburg, Hamburg. This occurred December 26th of 2017. In brief, they state 10 to 15 orangish lights flying past at speed in a type of curve. In more detail, they say it was night. I went into our spare room to have a smoke out the window. I had just started my cigarette when I saw 10 to 15 orangish, oval-shaped objects in the sky. They were moving very fast, traveling in a wide arc, but the objects themselves kept perfect formation. It only lasted about 5 seconds, and they were gone out of view. It was a clear, cloudless night. I'm not entirely sure of the exact time, but it would have had to been after 11 p.m. on the 26th of December. As soon as I seen the objects, I called to my husband to come look, but they were gone by the time he came to the room. I felt a bit frightened after seeing this. I have never seen anything like this before. I know what it wasn't. It was not a plane or fireworks or Chinese lanterns or anything I have seen in the sky before. I have no idea what it is I saw. The next UFO sighting occurred in Woodbridge Township, New Jersey on December 28th, 2017. In brief, they say it was a star-like object, moved straight down, then stopped, make a sharp left-like wide V shape, then disappeared. In more detail, they state I was looking at the clear morning sky December 28th at around 6:25 a.m. and first saw a small star-like object move from west to east across the sky. Thought it may be a satellite, then a few minutes later, I was facing south and about 90 degrees up I see another star-like object move straight down, then stop and made a hard left then back up to the sky towards southeast.
When we go out to eat, we never agree on where to go.
I want burgers! Pizza.
Tacos it is.
The one thing we do agree on is we all want unlimited high-speed data. That's why we switched to Metro PCS.
Stop by Metro PCS with the whole family and get 4 lines with unlimited LTE data for just $100, period. Metro PCS. Wireless. Figured out.
Coverage not available in some areas. Offers require port of number not currently active on T-Mobile network. During congestion, the fraction of customers using more than 35 gigs per month may notice reduced speeds. Video streams at up to 40p. No tethering. See store for details and terms and conditions.
Direction. The direction it took was like a wide V shape. Then it disappeared. This is the second time I have seen this, and the other was on December 21st at 6:45 a.m. and went from north to south, stopped, and shot straight up in the sky. I did not report this anywhere but today. I was very surprised and a little shocked to see this again. Now I am very curious and want to know what I saw. Did I really see a UFO? Oh, the innocence that gets lost in this stuff, I tell you. The next UFO sighting, this occurred in Newcastle upon Tyne in England, across the pond. This happened on December 28th, 2017. In brief, they state left after 20 minutes, then came back for around another 30 minutes. In more detail, they state, I looked out my window and I saw this white trail that wasn't moving, so I zoomed in on my camera and there was a black object in front of it. I'm used to seeing planes with white trails. However, I checked Flight Radar 24 and there were no aircraft. I thought it could be, anyhow. It left about 20 minutes after by fading out, then it returned 30 minutes later and stayed for 30 minutes, then left. I'm not sure if this was some sort of military project, so I would like to know in the comments wherever you guys think this is a UFO. There were also other objects near it. I'm not sure what they are as well. I don't edit these things, I just read them. All right, the next UFO sighting occurred in Oxford, UK, England. Another one from across the pond, and this one happened December 27th, 2017. In brief, they state, 3mm sized white object about 100 meters to my front traveled from my right to left, then vanished above Freesat side of a road. Okay. In more detail, they state, I was traveling southbound on the A34 from Oxford, UK, in the direction of Newbury, when I saw a bright white light appear from my right, which is the west, move steadily over both carriageways to my left, the east, and once over a small line of trees which run along the length of the, quote, A road. It disappeared. The opposite side of the tree line were fields. The weather was cold and clear. There were no bridges nearby and no other sources of light. When I saw the light, it appeared out of place for the setting. The light appeared to be about 3mm wide and at a distance of about 100 meters in front of me. I had a clear, unobstructed view. My instant thought was, what the heck is that? And I watched for about 5 seconds as it crossed all 4 lanes of the road before disappearing about the trees to my left. I had an unobstructed view of open space beyond the trees, and there was no trace of the object once it disappeared above the trees. I double-checked. There were no street lights or bridges in the area. I had seen the light, and there wasn't anything in the area. The next UFO sighting. This one occurred in Melbourne, Victoria, Australia. I used to live there. I loved it. This occurred December 26, 2017. In brief, they state some dark objects observed from Hastings, Victoria at dawn. In more detail, they state Some dark gray to black colored objects were observed appearing, congregating in random shaped groups, becoming more visible or darker, then either moving away or fading away from sight. They were observed by 3 people for around a half an hour, and I took a few snaps on my iPhone. I took a couple using HDR with normal on as well, and found the objects had moved slightly in those consecutive frames. A jet had passed over as well, and my husband took photos of the vapor trail that revealed a couple more, which weren't noticed when the photos were taken, only after when I reviewed the images. It was as if they were using the cloud cover to hide in. Prior to taking the photos, larger groups had been seen, some as low in the view as between and just above the tree line. However, I believe they were some distance away and definitely would have been over the sea. As dawn became brighter, I could no longer see any dots. Whew. Alrighty, well, keeping in the Christmas spirit, this is our lovely holiday week, we shall dive into some inspired paranormal stories, shall we? Let's do it. This first one is called Angels, Prayers, and Miracles. The Home Run. While many of these kinds of stories are life-altering or otherwise deeply affect the people who experience them, some involve activities as seemingly inconsequential as a kid's baseball game. Consider John D.'s story I'm about to read here for you guys. His baseball team had made it to the playoffs but was struggling in one of the semifinal games. John's team was at bat in the bottom of the last inning with 2 outs, 2 strikes, and 3 balls, bases loaded. His team was behind 7-5. Then something very unusual happened. This is a quote from John. Our second baseman was called a timeout so he could tie his shoe. John says, I was sitting on the bench when suddenly a strange man I had never seen before appeared in front of me. I was frozen still, and my blood turned to ice. He was dressed all in black, and he spoke without even looking at me. I was not very fond of our batter. This man said, Do you hold courage in this boy, and do you have faith? At that, I turned to my coach, who had taken off his sunglasses and was sitting right next to me. He didn't even notice the man. I turned back to the stranger, but he was gone. The next moment, our second baseman called time in. The next pitch, our batter hit a home run out of the park, winning us the game 8-7. We went on to win the championship. Spooky. Sounds like the Hat Man. Not an angel. I don't know. You do a favor here and favor there, and he wants favors too. Okay, here we go. Angel's Guiding Hand. Winning a baseball game is one thing, but escaping serious injury is quite another. Jackie B believes that her guardian angel came to her aid on 2 such occasions. Most interesting, her testimony is that she actually physically felt and heard this protective force. Both happened when she was a child of kindergarten age. She begins telling her story here. Everybody in the town used to go to the hill by the post office to sled in the winter. Jackie says, I was sledding with my family and I went to the steep part. I closed my eyes and went down. I apparently hit someone going down and I was spinning out of control. I was heading for the metal guardrail. I didn't know what to do. I suddenly felt something push my chest down. I came within less than half an inch of the rail, but didn't hit it. I could have lost my nose. The second experience was during a celebration of my birthday in school. I went to put down my crown on the bench at the playground during recess. I was running back to play with my friends. 3 boys suddenly tripped me. This playground had a lot of metal things and wood chips, not a good combo. I went flying and hit something about a quarter of an inch under my eye, but I felt something pull me back when I fell. The teacher said that they saw me sort of fly forward then fly back at the same time. As they hurried me to the nurse's office, I heard an unfamiliar voice keep telling me, "Don't worry, I'm here. God doesn't want anything to happen to his baby." Oh, that's precious, isn't it? All right. The next inspired story, A Blanket from an Angel. This story begins with, my baby was in the hospital having a 4-hour surgery. My estranged husband was not present and seemed not to care. At this time, our marriage was crumbling, and I fought to keep it all together. He openly cheated on me. But even worse, I was afraid for the baby's life, and when I arrived in the waiting room, an older lady was sitting there working on a quilt with the Serenity Prayer on it that says, "God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference." She asked me if the little baby boy is mine, and when I confirmed, she took my hand and said a prayer with me. I asked, "Who is she making the quilt for?" and she replied, "That God will show her who will need it." Hours later, I was called into the wake-up room, and my baby son was fine. When I came outside, the lady gave me the quilt and told me she now knows who she has been making it for. I have kept it in honor of my now 5-year-old son, who's sleeping in his bed covered by it. That's beautiful. The next story, Angel Force. I was headed home to my children driving in the slow lane. The next thing I knew, I was flying in the air in my Ford Windstar. I had no control. When my fan landed, it looked like a crane put it there. I was in the ditch perfectly. I had little room to get out. I felt like some force lifted me up out the ditch. I then saw this man who was so calm. He put a calmness in my heart. I never saw him again. I can't explain how perfectly my van was in the ditch. The next story, My Son and His Angel. In my home, we are not religious by any means. One night I was putting my son to bed, and he started telling me that the night before Jesus brought an angel to him because he was scared. He said, "She was so beautiful, and her wings were so big, they almost touched my walls." He said she sang to him and laid with him until he fell asleep. He then said Jesus came back to get her, and he brought her back to a door with him where they started to sparkle and then went through the door. Ever since, my son has been obsessed with Jesus and angels. He prays to an angel often and prays for Jesus to come back. The other day he was crying because he said he keeps praying, but he doesn't think Jesus can hear him. He said that he keeps praying for him to come back because they make him feel so happy. I acknowledge what he says, but I don't push it. I just let him talk about it when he needs to. Not sure what I should do. He gets genuinely sad when he thinks Jesus can't hear him. He is only 4 years old. The next angel story, My Healing Angel. When I was very young, maybe 8 or 9, I went to bed one night with a severe earache. I woke my mother up several times for comfort, but nothing made it better. I laid in bed with tears in my eyes, and then suddenly the pain stopped. I opened my eyes and saw something like a cloud hovering over me. I was amazed, but more so relieved. I knew what it was. I soon fell asleep in peace. Absolutely beautiful stories, very fitting, coming to the end of this year. Well, I want to thank you all for listening to UFO Headline News with me, Heidi Hollis. Be sure to check out UFOheadlinenews.com every single day. And also tune into my other weekly show, The Outlander, which is on Fridays. And on Tuesdays, I co-host on The Kevin Cook Show. Both shows are at 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central. And to catch my paranormal comic strip, The Outlanders, just go to theoutlanderscomic.com or HeidiHollis.com. And there is always InceptionRadioNetwork.com, where you could catch any show that you hear here on this network at any time. Remember always to keep an open mind so you can stay informed and inspired.
When we go out to eat, we never agree on where to go.
I want burgers. Pizza.
Tacos it is.
The one thing we do agree on is we all want unlimited high-speed data. That's why we switched to Metro PCS.
Stop by Metro PCS with the whole family and get 4 lines with unlimited LTE data for just $100, period. Metro PCS. Wireless. Figured out.
Coverage not available in some areas. Offers require port and of number not currently active on T-Mobile network. During congestion, the fraction of customers using more than 35 gigs per month may notice reduced speeds. Video streams at up to 40p. No tethering. See store for details and terms and conditions.